how great the MPA program is. And if you don't believe me, I have an alumni and a student here who will substantiate everything I say. So I'm delighted to be joined by Bianca Bueno, who is currently a student in the MPA program, and Stephanie Daves, who is a recent graduate. Anyway, you'll hear from them in just a second. So MPA, $1 million degree, and it's not only $1 million that you'll earn in additional income, in addition to great working conditions and benefits and pension and all the rest of it. You'll actually be engaging in very challenging and very interesting and important work, and I think that is probably the biggest advantage to getting an MPA program. So I'm the host person today, so you'll hear a little bit more from me. Then we really want to hear from both of our guests, and then we're going to open it up for a question and answer period. So yeah, I'm very keen to be here, and people don't think public policy is so exciting, but they're wrong. And as I tell my students, and I'll tell you all right now, public policy is so wonderful and exciting and important because the public sector resolves all of the most difficult, thankless, complex, challenging problems in that societies face. Okay, those problems are left to the public sector to be resolved, and they're, like I said, very difficult, challenging, expensive, and thankless problems, but they're very, very important. And so working in the public sector is not only very interesting because you're working through these very serious challenges, but it's also very important because you're serving, the greater good of Manitoba and Canadian society more generally. So that's very noteworthy. I've also been asked to mention a few things about the MPA program itself. We are very keen to have applications from any students, but particularly our own students here at the University of Winnipeg. Anyways, even happens to me. So the due date for the applications is January 15th. The important thing about the applications is to obviously make sure they're done on time. We want to see strong reference letters, so reach out to former professors or colleagues and make sure that they write you strong reference letters. Make sure to help them write strong reference letters by asking them point blank, will they write you a strong reference letter? And provide to them information to do so. Provide them with your transcript, with your CV, with your cover letter, with the letter that with the essay that you wrote for them. Tell them the mark they got. Help them help you is my point. So we look for strong reference letters. We also look for a good cover letter. This should be 1 page in length and should illustrate to us, tell us a little bit about who you are, why you want to do your MPA, why you think you'll be a good MPA student, and what kind of area of public policy you're interested in. But really what we're doing with the cover letter is we're evaluating your writing skills, okay? So make sure that it is succinct and well-written and cogent, etc. And then the other other issue is to provide us a writing sample. We will also look at that and to help evaluate your capacities. And even though I'm a big advocate of the MPA program here at the University of Winnipeg and Manitoba, if you're going to do 1 graduate school application, do 5. Okay, so competition is stiff to get in, and if you're going to do all of these, go through this process once, the marginal cost of doing 5 applications is not that high. So apply to lots of different programs. Also, if you want to speak to me directly about the program and the application process, I'm more than happy to do that. So please reach out and email me and we'll talk on the phone. I'm also the co-op director. This is the best part of the MPA program, which is that we have connections with the Manitoba. Most of our jobs are in the Manitoba Civil Service. They are very keen on our students. Right now, there is a lot of demand for MPA students in the civil service, and all of our students get fabulous opportunities in the Manitoba Civil Service, and more often times than not, these turn into full-time permanent jobs. But I'll leave that to Bianca and Stephanie to discuss. And that's about it. So just to remind people that this is being recorded, so just remember that. And then let's hear from our guests. So Bianca Bueno is a second-year MPA student. She has currently got a full-time permanent job in the civil service, which is great for her, not so great for me because she's no longer a co-op student, so I can't help my employers find jobs, but that's okay. And she is a program analyst at the Department of Justice. So she's going to tell you a little bit about her education and life experience and experience in the civil service. And then our other guest here is Stephanie Toews. She's a former MPA student, and she is now a senior advisor to the Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Investment and Trade. And if you wonder why she has a beautiful wooden door behind her, it's because she's got a fabulous office over in the legislature right next to the deputy minister. And so we're very proud of Stephanie, and she's going to tell you about her experience in the MPA program and her job experience. So that's enough for me. And I'm going to turn it over to Bianca.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Bianca Buena. I'm a second-year MPA candidate. Again, just enjoying the academic side of the MPA while also enjoying kind of like the professional career that it has brought me. So a little bit about myself. I was an international student during my undergrad. I graduated in 2018, kind of worked my way up until I got permanent residence, and my plan was always to pursue higher education. So here I am doing the MPA. I did my undergrad in political studies, so it was a good kind of transition into more government, politics kind of work. Why I chose the MPA program is really kind of my interest stemming from my undergraduate degree. So if you do an undergrad degree in political studies, you kind of learn a little bit about the administrative side of it versus the political side of it. And I just knew I am not going to run for office. That's not my thing. I like to be the person who never loses their job because they are the backbone of those elected officials. So for me, it was just mainly interest, and like that's what really pushed me to pursue an MPA degree, as well as like the MPA program itself in Manitoba is highly sought out in the civil service here and across the country, I would say. So another pull factor for me was also it's a 2-year degree. 2-year degree, very quick, and like I don't know about you, but in my undergrad, I was one of those hustlers. Like I really just pushed to get classes in. I would take 5 classes a semester, take summers, and I was just like, go, 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 go. When I saw that this is a 2-year degree with 36 credit hours, I'm like, okay, that's very digestible. Let's go. So I did apply. I got in. I was able to take summer courses as well, kind of fast track it a little bit. So I am enjoying that. And another pull factor for me would be the co-op, the internship. So you really kind of, it's a bit of a tricky working for the government. You kind of need a foot in the door, and sometimes that's hard to get a foot in the door. Sometimes hiring is so not welcoming that you might be screened out. So having an internship is really, a lot of the jobs just pick from these students, and maybe your resume is not that strong. Maybe you don't have any of these skills, but they'll pick you anyway because they know you're an MPA student. And so that was a big factor for me. Like, pick me, I am ready to learn. And here I am, like, because of my internship, I was able to land this permanent position with the Department of Justice, which is really great. So yeah, that's why I chose the MPA program. And I would say my experience with the program thus far, I mean, the degree really does give you a good academic background on public policy. How is public policy made? How is public policy made in Canada? How does government work at a federal level versus a provincial level? So it's a really good background on how these things are decided at an academic level. And like, you know, once you start this program, if you do, I'm sure all of you will sign up for this program, but once you do, you kind of start to understand that public policy, Canadian public policy is much different than American public policy and all that. And like the study of it is so interesting. So that's the academic side. And my experience with the internship of it is really kind of putting in practice what you learn in the classroom in play. Seeing what translates well, seeing what does not translate well. I would say that being in the academic field, you kind of get used to a lot of writing, a lot of research, very, very fancy big words. And the transition to government work and government writing was a big, I would say, adjustment, but it's not impossible to catch on because, you know, being wide readers, being like, you know, doing your undergrad, doing your master's, you become wide readers. You start to read a certain kind of language, but as you transition to government work, you'll do the same thing and you'll catch on rather quickly that, okay, they don't want one big 12-letter word. They want it at chopped up that everybody can understand. So I think that was one interesting bit about like the transition. But other than that, it's really, the internship opened up so many doors for me. I began with Apprenticeship Manitoba last summer. Oh, not even last summer, last winter. And I kind of did it all summer, all throughout, because they loved me so much and they just kept me. I learned a lot about like operational policy work. So maybe you've heard of like briefing notes, advisory notes, house book notes, QP, like question period notes, like all of these things. Like it was kind of just like trial by fire for me. I was just kind of put in there, figure it out, learn as you go. And it was a great experience. I was able to also work on special projects where I kind of looked at certain processes in the department, certain things, and made recommendations on how to improve them. So a lot of analysis, a lot of like synthesizing information that are sizable for your readers to, in support of your minister, in support of your executive director, because we're here to kind of like take in all this information, understand it for ourselves, and then produce it in a sizable chunk that your executive director can read and understand in like a minute or two. So that's really like, it's an art, it's a skill, and that's what we're paid here to do for the most part. I was also able to attend and actually lead events. So I don't know if you've heard, but Apprenticeship Manitoba is where I did my internship. They are kind of the Oscars and the Olympics of public policy. There was an awards of distinction event really that celebrated employers, instructors, and journey persons in the province. So awards were read, the minister came, and awards were announced. We had a sit-down dinner. It was a 4-course meal. I was able to lead that entire event from start to finish. It was intense, but it was a great growth, learning curve for me, and a growth as like a professional dealing with internal, external stakeholders and kind of other departments. I was also able to lead like another awards event, and it was just like meeting the minister, meeting federal agencies that funded the event. So yeah, that's what I got from my internship, and I would say that that's what helped me get this job that I'm in now. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm about. Looking forward to hopefully that can kind of like spark any questions that you may have for me. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Bianca. And I just put a note, these are paid internships, paid co-ops between $20 and $28 an hour. So just that's very important. Anyways, thank you, Bianca. You can tell, yes, she's a happy customer down there. So this is good. Okay, over to Ms. Taves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Taves, and like Malcolm said, I've recently stepped into this role. So I'm the Senior Advisor to the Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Investment and Trade. I actually graduated from the MPA program, and this sounds crazy saying it out loud, but it was spring of 2021. So it wasn't that long ago that I finished the degree. But so I've had quite the amazing experience with the co-op program, and then also moving into permanent positions afterwards. It was a seamless transition. I feel like after I finished my co-op, they basically offered me a job immediately. So there's a huge benefit to just the exposure that the co-op can bring. I did have quite a different experience in comparison to probably most graduate students. I was working at the University of Manitoba. I had a career already. I was working as a student advisor and registrar for the College of Nursing. Most of my professional experience prior to applying to the MPA program was in post-secondary. And so I'd actually originally applied to the MPA program because I wanted to move up into strategic enrollment management and work more with post-secondary policy, which, I mean, I know a little bit, I get to work a little bit with with the advanced education skills and immigration now, but so I thought I was going to do the MPA program part-time, and I would work as a student advisor full-time. But after I started the MPA program, and it was actually in Dr. Bird's, the first class, the governance class, Dr. Bird was talking about the experiences in co-op, and learning about governance and what it's like to work in government. And that made me definitely feel like I needed to be more closer to where the action is, because although, when you're working in a post-secondary institution, it is, there's like a policy lens, and you are sort of like, you're a public servant, but it's not the same as being like very close to government and where the action is. And so I had actually decided in January of 2020 that I would quit my full-time permanent position with pension, salary, benefits, all the fun things, and become a co-op student. And I think at the end of February 2020 into March 2020, I thought I was losing my mind because obviously the pandemic hit, but we were still able to move into co-op experiences in May of that year. So they were a little bit delayed just because of the pandemic, but I started actually my co-op experience in our department. So at the time it was economic development and jobs. And I do have to do a little bit of a plug for our department, I was told by the deputy minister. So I am going to talk a little bit about why I like working in this department as well, and why my experience was so great as a student. So I was working at the time in an area called community partnerships, which is now community and employer partnerships. One of the unique things about economic development, investment, and trade is that we almost have like not two sides of the department, but we offer services both to individuals. So we have in our workforce development area, we have career development consultants that work directly with the public. So if you end up on EI or EIA, you can go and see a career development consultant. We have a location downtown at Lombard and one on St. Mary's. And you can get hooked up with funding to go back to school, to do different training programs or get referrals to training programs. But then we also have our industry partnerships and industry development side that offers programming that supports businesses. And so our department does carry legislation, and there's some really interesting policy work that can be done, because not only are you working on policy for the individual, sort of at a social services level, but there's also the ability to work on policy relating to like business expansion, workforce expansion from the business side of things. So I was working in community and employer partnerships, but I was able to experience both the operational side of the department, as well as the policy side. So that was an invaluable experience for me. Because once you understand the workings of the operational side, so like the career development consultants and the types of questions and types of interactions that they have with the public, you can write better policy. So I don't know if that was on purpose. It was kind of on accident that I got exposed to both, but that was probably one of the most valuable parts of that experience. And that also goes back to the fact that as a co-op student, you and not to get too into, you know, the logistics of hiring a co-op student, but you go through the STEP program. So after, like, as a co-op intern, there's a lot of flexibility for you to get involved in many different areas. So, and I myself too, I've hired 2 co-op students after graduating and working within the government of Manitoba. And I do, when I hire co-op students, I try to make sure that they get exposed to everything. So inviting them to all kinds of meetings, all types of just even like information sessions and webinars that we might be putting on externally, because all of those experiences are really valuable. And so as a co-op student, you can approach your manager or supervisor and be like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this, and they'll do whatever they can to get you involved or sit in on meetings. There's lots of opportunities for that. I was able to attend a lot of stakeholder meetings where we had a lot of executive directors and leaders of a variety of programs or projects that we fund. And just being able to see that interaction between government and sort of listen in on those conversations is really valuable. So being in, and also that's the other thing too, is the co-op program allows you to do school sort of alongside while you're working. And so I found that there's so many things that I wouldn't have been able to, and I think that Bianca had touched on this too, that it's hard to kind of get screened in, it's hard to try to get through that hiring process. But having a co-op program, and this is also why hiring managers like the co-op program too, you're kind of like pre-vetted. They know that you have a basic understanding of certain subject material because you would have been exposed to it by the time that you're hired as a co-op student. And there's also just like a language that you need to learn as a government employee. Like, I remember the first time that I was told to round out a briefing note. I had to be like, what does that mean? Can you please explain that to me? So there's just things that you get to learn on the job that just carries you throughout your career. So then when it's paired with that academic experience, it's just like a whole nice package with a little bow on it. And it does take your career, I think, that step further, because this probably sounds a little weird, but it sort of validates your experience. Like, you have something, letters and like a certificate behind your name that you can say like, yes, I have the writing skills that I need. So, and that's also a very valuable part about the program, is just like, it's kind of like a intensive 2-year crash course in how to write. I think I'll leave it at that. I think that was all that I wanted to say, but I'm excited to hand it back to Malcolm and go from there.
All right, right on. Thank you, Stephanie. What does rounding out a briefing note mean?
So in that context, it was really to just like add more meat to the BN. Yeah.
Good, beef it up. Okay,
Yeah,
good. Okay. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Stephanie. And let's hear from you folks. What would you like to know more about?
Malcolm, we have some questions on the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
So I think you can see them. If not, let me know. I can.
Okay, so is co-op available for part-time students as well? Yes, is the short answer. But Rebecca, I would recommend, when you apply to the MPA program, you're let in as a full-time student, because that's how the process works. And then you can change to be a part-time student. I'm more than happy to talk to people, once they're in the program, about their particular circumstances, and I can explain to them, the dynamics of how the program works, and give you my own view on how to proceed, although I don't, it's the decision's always up to the student. I just give information. But the long and the short of it, the thing I always tell students is don't pass up the co-op opportunity. It really is amazing. So yeah, think long and hard before you pass it up. So anyways, so get into the program and then we can discuss, a path through the program that suits your circumstances. So that would be my answer to that one. I think, so from Nessa says, looking back at your experience with the MPA program, what advice would you want to give us that you wish you would have done when you first started your master's degree? So that's a very good question there, Nessa. So yeah, so to our guests, looking back, what would you, what advice would you give? That was the question? Yeah. What advice would you want to give us who are starting, when you first started your degree?
I could start this off.
Okay.
I would say, so with this program, you get 4 electives. And the way I approached it was kind of like remnants of my approach during my undergrad degree, which is like take the first class available to get it out of the way. And that's kind of what I did in my first semester, and I just took whatever elective was available to me. Looking back now, I'm in my fall semester of my last year. I wish, and I just kind of like bulldozed through every class out there. I'm like, get me those credits, get me out of here. But looking back now, I wish I just kind of sat down and thought, as a civil servant, I can use those 4 classes to specialize in a particular field. And now I'm realizing that civil service, both provincial and federal, are really big into economics and data analytics. I wish I had that foresight of going like, let me specialize my electives so I can bring that up in interviews. So I can bring that up in areas where if it was ever brought up, I'd be like, I have experience in that because I took 4 classes on that. So that's what I wish I did. I now have only 1 elective. I'm taking an economics one because I realized this would be very good for my work and for my career moving forward. So that would be it. Take advantage of the electives that you're given. You're only given 4, and make smart choices about it because you have no other leeway. Everything else is very MPA like core subject. Those 4, those are your ways to kind of tack on your resume to say, this is my specialty. So that would be it for me.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that too. Yeah, those electives are really important. So I took 2, and it was largely because I was working in economic development at the time. I took 2 of my electives from the Asper School of Business, and then one of the electives that I took was from Community Health Sciences. So I would say definitely don't be scared to pick up those electives even outside in different subject areas that are going to sort of bolster whatever, I guess, career path that you want to take. And so when I entered the program, like I said, I was really focused on post-secondary and sort of like post-secondary policy, which was a nice segue into obviously economic development and sort of the work that our department does. And I love being here, but I wish I would have exposed myself to a few different policy areas while I was studying. I've always been interested in health and health policy in the healthcare system, and I'm really fortunate that I've been able to work on some projects that are related to health now in my career. But I wish that was something I could have explored a little bit further in my degree and kind of focused on. So it is nice to tailor your degree to like a particular subject area, but I wish I would have allowed myself time to sort of like explore a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. That was a great question and very thoughtful responses. if I had a criticism of the MPA program, it would be that we are a little light on the quantitative side of things. So we do have an economics and a statistics set of courses. But I would really encourage anybody doing their undergrad right now. I can't tell you how important a course in finance, basic economics, and basic statistics would be to help you in the MPA. And as our two guests here have said, those skills are really sought after in the civil service. And you don't have to be like a statistics wonk. You just need to, just having a familiarity with finance and be able to read a spreadsheet and basic economics, those are really valuable skills. And the MPA is we're a little weak on promoting those skills amongst our students, and it's one of the challenges of the program. But anyways, we have some other questions here. Anonymous attendee asks, what is the best way to approach a professor to ask for a reference? I feel like COVID and online learning has hindered a professor knowing me better academically. It's a very good question. Generally, I would approach professors who you've done well in the course, that you had some form of rapport with, and then to approach them, like I said, with all the documentation. Tell them you're going to provide them as much information as possible. And most importantly, you must ask them bluntly, will you provide a strong reference letter for me? Oftentimes professors will not tell you that they won't, they'll give you an okay. And then you say, will you give me a strong reference? And if you can't, that's okay, I'll find someone else. So you need to actually be blunt and frank with your professors. This is a real, I really feel for, COVID has really damaged social connections and social capital. And so this is a really, that's a very valid question and something that people need to get moving on it now. So don't ask the professor a week before it's due. Okay, Bianca, do you have a?
Yeah, just to add to that, I was kind of in the same a similar scenario where I had been out of school for a bit, and I needed to go back to get reference letters from professors who haven't marked my papers in maybe a semester or two. So I just honestly, shamelessly emailed them and said, hey, I was in your courses and I was in 4 of your classes, and during undergrad, I did this well in all of your classes. And I would like you to be my reference because I feel like you saw me progress through my undergrad and I'm trying to get into this master's degree. And, a lot of them were happy to answer me, and I bet you they didn't even remember me. But I had I was using evidence as like, I was in this courses in 2017, 18, and with you. So please be my reference. And they agreed, and I got stellar recommendations from those professors. So I would say, don't even hold yourself back. Just go for it. The worst thing they can say is no, and then you'll have to find someone else. But I think you'll be fine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bianca. We have sort of 2 questions here. One is asking about what kind of edge do MPA program people from U of M and UW have when competing with other candidates for federal positions. And then another question, again, asking about employment opportunities outside of the Manitoba Civil Service. The long and the short of it is most of our jobs are in the Manitoba Civil Service, though not all. That's just how now we do have, we often get interest from corporations, sometimes a few NGOs. The federal government is also very keen on our students. And now with remote work, there's a lot more opportunity. And so there's actually a lot of opportunity to work for the federal government. One of the challenges I face is convincing my MPA students to take federal government jobs. Oftentimes they're very keen on staying in Manitoba and Winnipeg, and they're just generally keener on the provincial government. Now, I really encourage people, especially if you can move and you can go to Ottawa and tell Ottawa about what we do out here in Manitoba. We need more Westerners and more Manitobans going to Ottawa and telling them, what life is like out here. We need representation. So I'm always encouraging people to go to Ottawa. So the answer is there's lots of jobs in the federal service available to MPA students. And, our students are very competitive with others. Stephanie.
So I just saw the comment about Global Affairs Canada, and I just have to do a plug again because with our department, so Economic Development, Investment and Trade, we do have a new trade area. And so they will be hiring soon. So I know that when it comes to trade, like a lot of people look at the feds for work, but I would also encourage you to look at the Manitoba Public Service. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and like I said, there will be a lot of positions coming up in that area in the future. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, another couple of questions. What type of paper or assignment is best for the writing sample? Just one that showcases, that's actually from a course and showcases your ability to write. The writing skills are very, very important. And so any essay that you've produced for a course is acceptable. And then of course we usually look at the first couple of pages so we can evaluate your writing skills. So that's my answer there. We have another question here. I'm wondering if I should get some degree related to job experience before I apply for a graduate program. Do you think getting a few years in your field is best, or just getting straight into graduate school? It's a dilemma because I worry that I am getting further away from the job market by doing more school. No, we're keen on anybody. Now you do need 120 credits. That's very important. So 3-year degrees, we will not be able to accept. You can put the application in, but you can't get into the program with a 3-year degree. And that is, you need 120 credits. We're not really where you get what area that's in is not really that important. In fact, we're very keen to get applications from people in the sciences, from the health sciences, that are outside of sort of the social sciences and political science. It does help if you have a course or two in political science, so you kind of have some familiarity with the Canada's political system, but that's not required. And we really want to see good marks. We want to see good, like I said, writing samples. We want to see people who are keen, and we're keen on people who have work experience as well. So that would be my 2 cents on that. And like I said, feel free to contact me if you want to talk more about this. Bianca.
I think regarding to this question, getting a few years in your field, I think this program is tailored to get you those years in the field already. Like if you take advantage of the internship, you take advantage of the co-op, you're well into the door already. So if the intention is to pursue a career in the civil service, this internship will get you those years you're looking for elsewhere. So I think you shouldn't worry about that. I think you should, if this is the path that you want to take, this program is well tailored, most especially for the government of Manitoba. Like I know we haven't gotten into kind of like the employment prospects of this degree, but if you just do a brief search, go on Government of Manitoba jobs, look at all those policy positions there, you will see masters in public administration, like so many of them. They will name drop this degree there like it's nobody's business. So, do a brief look at that and kind of assess for yourself. I think, my personal opinion, I got this job because I got this internship. In my internship, I was able to hit every criteria they have on all those job postings. I'm not to kind of toot my own horn, but I had 4 job offers and I chose this one. You got options, but you really get what you give. I would say that I was one of the students that really went out there and I applied for every internship, got the best one. And as soon as I got into this position, I basically told my manager, and again, I'm also plugging Apprenticeship Manitoba. If you do end up taking this program, you see a posting for Apprenticeship Manitoba, take it. It's the best one. Don't listen to Stephanie, I'm kidding. But Apprenticeship Manitoba is the best one. You get operational and special projects and project lead. it's the best. Anyway, so I told my manager while I was still an intern, like probably like, you know, just this really fresh master's student going, and I was like, I want to be bridged in right away. So my intentions were already out there, and they did actually offer me, and I did end up rejecting them because I was already applying elsewhere. So I'm still a student, and I was competing for these jobs already, and I actually got 4 different offers. So it just gives you an idea of how well sought out this degree is and how employable you are soon, even before you finish it. So that's my 3 cents on that.
Stephanie.
So I'll just add too, because when I was so I did my first co-op in the May, like the spring of 2020, but I actually stayed on to work full time because my manager that I was reporting to for the co-op, they asked if I could stay on full time, and that just sort of led into a permanent position. But I found that it was valuable even to be working while I was taking these courses, because there are experiences that you get in the MPA program that just complement the work that you're doing so well. So for example, there was a course where we were in groups and we were all tasked to read. So there's a poverty report that's released by the government like every year. So I remember like we were tasked with sort of picking apart the wording and looking at the poverty report and the update, and sort of in groups, and then bringing that to a wider group and having a discussion that way. The next year I had to write a section of that report. So I used the experiences and sort of the feedback and what everyone was saying, and I remembered those things when I started writing you know, my portion of that report. So there are all types of assignments that can sort of augment your work experience as well, and you can bring your work experience into the program. I did my co-op or my my capstone paper on labor markets, and I used some of the data from work. So it was sort of a win-win for my employer too, because then I presented to the entire department on my capstone paper. So I just had noticed that, you know, someone had said they're already working as a program analyst. I still think that this, even if you're already working as an analyst in especially Manitoba Public Service, it's so valuable because it also opens up those higher level positions. It's a lot easier to get into those like executive director roles, because you can unfortunately check that box. That sounds bad, but it's true though. And you also get that sort of higher level analytical experience as well.
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to that, yes, so if you do want to rise up in the civil service, a master's degree is required. It didn't used to be like that, but that's definitely the case today. And an MPA is kind of the degree to do that. And then the other point I was about to make, I forget. So, okay. Yeah.
Just briefly adding, a master's degree also, just like not just in the civil service, but everywhere at the moment, is a signal to your employer that, look at me, I am so dedicated to this study of what we're going to do. So you're signaling to them the importance of this kind of knowledge, expertise to you. And you can also think of it as a way of, and this is not just for the MBA, but for all master's degree, think of it as 2 years of your life for the rest of your career. It's so easy to do. 2 years and you're already working, and it sets you up for a bigger career. You don't know what it's going to bring you. You could be in Ottawa in 2 years. You could be in DC working for their provincial government. I think the possibility, I would say that the master's opens so many more options than just sticking to what you already have. Like, yes, you're a program analyst now, but it could bring you anywhere else. You just will have way too many options at that point, and like the world would be your oyster, I think.
And just also for students, just in terms of sort of timing, I mean, the labor market in general is quite hot. But the public sector labor market is also quite hot, and there's a number of factors for that. One of them is just simple demographics, that the older folks are moving on, and for various reasons we've underhired younger folks. But what it means is that there's great demand for these skills, especially MPA degree skills, but also once you're in, this really is a wonderful time to join. And as Stephanie shows and Bianca will show, they're rising up through the ranks quite quickly, and so it's actually quite exciting to be a young person in the civil service at this time, and there's lots of upward mobility. While in years past it was more difficult just because there was more people above you, but now there's fewer people above you, and of course governments have been constraining spending on the civil service, which has had some positive and some negative effects, and of course the problems that governments have to solve just keep coming, whether it's deficits and inflation and pandemics and such. So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Malcolm, there's one more question that I said I'll ask later, so it went to the answered section. So the students are asking, or applicant, what if you haven't been in school for a very long time? Is that an issue with the application, or?
That's a good okay. That's a good, very good question. Well, you'll have to go back and dust off see if you can find some of your old papers. Try to connect with some of your older professors. If that is the case, you might want to get a reference letter from a current employer. And again, reach out to me and I'm happy to sort of give you some guidance on that. Perhaps you can't find some of your older papers because they're on your old computer and it's all gone. Then you'll need to sort of substitute something. So you might want to use a Word document or another document that would show you showcase your writing abilities, and then you might want to also mention that in your letter. But we are keen on people coming back, coming from, like I said, work experience, coming back to school. We are keen on applicants. So make sure to apply. So that would be my question there. My answer there. Okay. So my time for my question. Okay, so here's my question to our two panelists. Looking back, not just on the MPA, but on your career so far, including your post-secondary education, undergrad, this, that, you've probably done a few things right, like join the MPA. And so you can tell us a little bit of something you did right, but then I'd also like to hear maybe something that you did less right, or maybe if you went back, you would do it differently. And we had a version of this earlier, but I'd like to kind of repeat that. So what's something that you did right and what's something that you might do differently? So why don't we start with Stephanie?
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that I think I did right is that when I started, I tried to make connections with a lot of people in the office. So as a student, it was a little bit difficult during the pandemic, but anytime there were people in the office, I would try to walk around, ask questions, obviously not harass people, but just be friendly. If there's a lunch space, go to the lunch space, go and see who's hanging out in there. One of the, I would go and, have lunch in the lunchroom. And one of the directors would always have lunch in there. So we would just chat and got to know each other. That was how I got my first job, is because she was promoted to an executive director and she knew me, she saw my name, and offered me a position. So definitely, and that's another big bonus for the co-op, is just being able to be in that workplace and make those connections and just talk to people. One of the things that I wish I would have done differently is that I feel like in a lot of ways I was undervaluing, like when I was applying for jobs, I was undervaluing my experience and underselling myself. particularly as an MPA student, because there's so many assignments, there's briefing notes that you write for assignments. Those count as briefing notes. And so in the interview, I wish I would have taken more time to explain exactly the types of assignments and work that I would have done. I mean, I'm very happy where I am now, but that's something that moving forward, being able to articulate those experiences, hiring within the Manitoba Public Service is very different. You do have to sort of sell yourself in a different way in the interviews. And one of the things that I hear from hiring managers too is like, you know, they'll say, you know, I met this person or I interviewed this candidate and they sounded amazing, but they just didn't like say the right things because they're looking for certain things to say in the interview. And so if you do, like with the MPA program, if you wrote a briefing note for an assignment, talk about your process. How did you research things? Did you use Google? Well, how did you use Google? And it's okay to use Google. I think all public servants use Google. So there's things like that in terms of, you know, combining and being able to promote myself a little bit more. That's what I wish I would have done differently.
All right, Bianca.
Okay. So I guess for me, I do agree as well. And I have like some things to add to what Stephanie has said, but I do agree with those. And what I would add would be something that I thought I did right was during my internship, I actually was a bit of a yes man. I was yes towards everything, every task, how big or how small that is. I was just saying yes to them. And that really, even when sometimes I thought this is not really policy related or this is not something that's good for my career or my career development, I just said yes to it. And that really signaled a strong kind of team person to not just my manager, but to the executive director and to other leaders on the floor. And they saw that, oh, okay, this might not be what Bianca is here to do, but she's willing to learn and she's willing to help. And that showed, like when I left that position, they were all really sad and they were really trying their best to kind of give me an offer so that I would stay. And I think that's one thing that, like, you know, you can kind of apply not just in any job really, is to just show your willingness to help and how kind of attuned you are to being a team player. That's kind of what the civil service or anyone's looking for. They don't need somebody who knows everything. They need somebody who's willing to learn and go and kind of pursue whatever task is at hand. So that's one thing I did right. Something that I thought I could improve, I could have done differently was, I think being a young person coming into like a government role, there's a bit of chip on our shoulders or on my shoulder in the beginning that I was too afraid to share my own thoughts. And it took some time for me to practice that. No, I am also a professional. I am doing a master's degree. I have some things to say that could improve this process, that could improve this policy, that could, like, you know, something to add to the conversation. That took a while. That took a lot of practice in me to kind of be like, oh, actually, maybe we should do it this way. And once I started to do that, my leaders were kind of trusting me more. That not only am I receptive, I'm listening to what is being said, I'm analyzing and I'm giving recommendations that are actually, a lot of them were implemented. So I think that's what I would have done differently, is I would have kind of just be comfortable in my own skin, that I am a professional and I have something to bring to the table. And, you know, I got there eventually, but that's something I would have changed. So yeah.
That's good. Those are good answers. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from our viewer folks? Michaela, you got any questions for us?
Sorry, I'm just taking, I was really listening and I was really being an active listener. You guys are really great speakers and it's wonderful. So I think I didn't do my job. by going to Q&A and looking at it. So give me 1 second here. Okay, no, I think we're done. There's a congratulations from one of the attendees to Bianca. So that was wonderful. So I think we're at the end of the Q&A, and
Awesome.
also just 4 minutes to, I can't believe how fast the time flies when everything is so exciting and inspiring. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Bird, and the alumni, Stephanie and Bianca, and congratulations to all your success after taking the MPA program, or for Bianca, you're still in it. So can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next after graduating too. And yeah, so thank you for all this great information. I think it's really helping our prospective students to kind of understand what they're gonna sign up for.
Yeah, and it's as I said, thank you, Bianca and Stephanie and Michaela for your time and energy on this. And as I said, please reach out and contact me if you have further questions. And you know, we're very proud of our students, and we know they do very important work out there. And there's nothing brings me more pleasure than seeing my students succeed. So it's good. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. And the
Thanks.
recording will
Bye.
be available on our website in a couple of days as well. Have a
Thanks.
great long weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.